I think we're live. All right, we are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this is an episode. Welcome to Tools to Scale Your SaaS Startup Painlessly. I am your host and moderator today, Jade. I run the startup program at Cloudflare, so hit me up for free credits if you're an early stage startup and a recovering startup founder. And today, as our panelists, we have Dina, Kozlov, and Brian Batraski. Can you just say real quickly the products that you are the PMs of?
Sure, I'll go first. Hi, everybody. My name is Dina. I've been on a few teams at Cloudflare now. I actually started out on our cryptography team, and then I moved over to our DNS team, and now I'm the product manager for our SSL TLS team, which includes everything from universal certificate issuance to SSL for SaaS, to advanced certificate manager, to anything and everything for certificates at Cloudflare. And Brian.
Hello, everybody. My name is Brian Batraski. I am the product manager here at Cloudflare for our load balancing product to make sure your applications stay reliable and performant as much as possible with utilizing your existing infrastructure. Our new waiting room product and Project Fairshot, and also our standalone health checks product here at Cloudflare.
Cool. And just a note to our audience, whether you're viewing from YouTube or Facebook or LinkedIn, if you want to ask questions of Dina or Brian, you can feel free to chat those questions. And if I see them on the side, I will try to work your questions into the flow of conversation. So just a heads up, there is a tiny latency there, but I will keep your questions in mind. So definitely chime in if something that Dina or Brian says makes you think of something that you want to ask. All right, so one of our colleagues a few years back gave me this little gem about how we describe technologies. Describing, for instance, a quarter of an inch drill bit that you might buy at Home Depot versus the hole in the wall that you're trying to accomplish with a drill bit, and maybe the painting that you're trying to hang up on the wall as the thing that you're trying to accomplish. So one of the things that I want to address in our conversations today is each of the technologies from each of these perspectives, the drill bit and also the hole in the wall perspective. So let's go into a little bit. Brian, first, can you describe load balancing from the what it is and also what you're trying to accomplish perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. So load balancing in its simplest idea is taking requests to an existing infrastructure to a set of origins, at least two, and then routing them in an efficient manner, utilizing your infrastructure more effectively, so then you don't over inundate any specific origin with too many requests. Therefore, you can spread that load across your infrastructure and make sure that you can stay reliable, stay available for your customers, so then they don't go elsewhere. Some of the problems that we want to solve, and as our really bread and butter, is our global load balancing, making sure you can take requests from around the world and route them effectively based on the goals of your company. So if you want to make sure you can scale your infrastructure, not overload anything, make sure you're not serving 5xx type errors to your end users, then our load balancer is a fantastic option. And one of the best things about it is that we have one of the biggest anycast networks in the world, and therefore we have no single point of failure, right? We can load balance from any colo across our entire network. Therefore, it makes it an incredibly powerful tool to be able to scale with your business. Make sure you can keep that performance and availability with your application. And some of the things we want to continue to solve are also local traffic management as well, which we're going to continue to pull that thread through this year.
So talk to me about multiple origins here. So when I talk to a lot of very early stage startups, and I think our audience has a wide range of the maturity of the companies that they're currently employed at. A lot of the startups that I talk to have a single origin, right? At what point of maturity of company or at traffic or load do you start to see customers starting to have multiple origins that they need to load balance between?
Yeah, great question. An origin or better termed a server, right? It has finite limitations, right? There's only so much power it can maintain, so much requests or compute time that it can handle for a given box, right? And so because there are those finite limitations, as you continue to get more users, as your brand and your business continues to scale, you're going to get a larger influx of requests coming to your application day in, day out, and also from different parts of the world. And so it makes sense to need more than one origin once you reach the limitation of the existing server, and therefore need to have more so you can effectively handle not only taking requests from certain parts of the world, say your business is doing well in the United States, then you start blowing up, you start doing even better and better, and you start getting requests from Europe, you start getting requests from Asia, and so therefore you may not even need a extra server because you can't handle the load, but also to make sure you can make sure that those requests are being served from the areas that those folks are originating from, to make sure that they have the most expectant and performant experience as possible. And so it's not only based on a capacity issue, but also where are these requests being served, and can we make sure that we have presence across different parts of the world to serve our customers as we grow our customer base.
So let's say I'm on the BDR or AE team and I'm talking to a prospect. What are some of the keywords and problems that I'm, in that conversation I'm hearing that should trigger, hey, I should tell them about load balancing or send them the docs, which, by the way, everybody, Samantha has posted the docs, links to docs in the text descriptions.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's really interesting. As an idea, load balancing is a very simple concept, right? You take existing requests and you route them effectively using different strategies to make sure that those requests are evenly balanced across your infrastructure. If a customer brings up to say, my application gets brought down because I have certain spikes of traffic that inundate one of my servers in a certain part of the world. They say my customers are seeing an increase of 503, 5xx type errors. If a customer comes to us and says, oh, I have requests coming from Europe, I need to now maintain a GDPR compliance regulation. That's another great scenario to be able to utilize our load balancer with our geosteering capabilities. And so there are a number of different buzzwords, such as what I've listed, that would be a great indicator that our load balancing would be a great step forward. Another method is, if the customer comes and says, I have a lot of overhead costs, a lot of maintenance costs with my hardware box. It's not scaling to the extent that I want. I want to have, cloud scale, elastic scale. Then, that's another great way to bridge a conversation to our load balancing solution.
Yeah, I actually had written down getting the most out of your cloud credits, because a lot of early stage startups, as a result of an accelerator program that they're participating in, have free cloud credits that they get from various vendors. And there was a startup who I had talked to at some point, at this very enterprising YC startup, that load balanced between different cloud providers to make sure that they used up all of their credits. Do you see this very often, or do people mostly use it for the sort of reliability aspect, like if a hurricane hits a data center kind of thing, versus resilience and reducing load? Like, what do you see more often, or is it a combination?
Great question. We definitely see the latter as the main goal, right? So like the former, I think, is more of a, we have these credits, let's go ahead and take advantage of them, and like that's a nice to have. I think the latter is, we need a high availability solution to make sure that our application is reliable and it is resilient to the different traffic patterns, the different spikes, different behaviors that take place on the internet today, especially with COVID-19 and seeing a massive shift of in-person traffic going all to digital. The way that we see global traffic behave is very different now than it was before. And so keeping the high availability solution, being able to effectively route your requests based on the needs of your business goes a very long way. And what is par nowadays for what is the reliability and the availability of an application and the performance is getting higher every single day. If someone types in brian.com and it loads up at the 502 error, it's almost surely that user is then going to go to Dina.com instead, because they don't have the patience anymore to want to wait and see if that site's available, because there's so many different options nowadays. And so it's more important every single day to make sure you have your load balancer, to make sure you have those solutions in place, so so you can stay reliable. You can make sure you're serving your customers and providing the best absolute experience day in and day out.
So during the pandemic, the internet traffic has really spiked. And do you remember how much the internet traffic has overall gone up? Something insane.
I mean, it's orders of magnitudes. I mean, one thing that I highly encourage all users to do is to check out our Cloudflare Radar product, where it can give you really deep insights into the shifts and changes of the global internet. We see a very large chunk of it going through Cloudflare, and so having that insight is very, very valuable. And we're so happy to be able to share that with folks across the world.
Thanks. So I want to shift gears a little bit over to Dina. There was so coming at it from the perspective of conversations with users, there was a legal startup I was talking to a while back who had a separate instance of their app for different law firms, and and they had different subdomains for each of them, and it ended up being the case that they that they were really interested in SSL for SaaS, which is under your jurisdiction. Is that do you see that kind of use case very often? Can you talk to me about that, Dina?
Yes, of course. So when thinking about SSL for SaaS, so we built it out for our customers who have their own SaaS applications. And a lot of times when they are starting out, they need to make sure that their SaaS application stays online, that it is performant. And not just that, but they also want to take care of their future customers and make sure that their customers are secure, that they have the same security, performance, reliability benefits that their own SaaS domain has. And they essentially just want to take care of everything behind the scenes on behalf of their customers so that their customers have a very seamless experience setting things up. And that's where SSL for SaaS comes in really well. What it does is it allows you set up your SaaS zone. And so let's say I'm the law firm, I set it up and I get the DDoS mitigation that comes straight out of the box with Cloudflare. I set up some WAF rules. I want my customers to have their own branded experience. I want them to each have their own law firm's domain. I don't want them to necessarily use my domain because they want their own branding. I want them to have a high SEO score. And I want to make the onboarding as seamless as possible. And I want to make sure that their site is secure. And so SSL for SaaS allows you to take care of all of these things. What it does, first and foremost, like the name says, is it issues and renews certificates on behalf of the SaaS provider, but also their customers, so that they never have to worry about it. We automatically renew these certificates. We take care of the validation with the certificate authority. And that way, all of their traffic can go over HTTPS and stay safe and encrypted. But not just that, but the onboarding is very seamless. All of the SaaS companies' customers have to do is point a CNAME record to them. And then, like I said, all of the settings, like security, performance that you set up on your SaaS zone, those are automatically extended to all of your customers. So it's really easy to scale with Cloudflare because you don't have to worry about certificate issuance. You can go into the millions of custom host names if your application grows, and we'll be able to handle that load. Your customers should get the performance benefits, they'll get the uptime, they'll get the DDoS benefits. And like I said, any WAF or bots or settings that you set up on your SaaS zone, that's automatically extended to your customers.
Nice. We just got a couple of audience questions come in about load balancing. So I'm going to address those with Brian. So the first one is from Donald, who is watching from Facebook. Oh, we might have lost Brian for a second. All right, let's wait for Brian to come back. Oh, hi, Brian. Welcome back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened there. That was weird.
So,
back to load balancing.
Yes, we have a couple of questions about load balancing. The first one is from Donald, who is watching on Facebook. So at what point should a new SaaS developer start using a load balancer instead of using one droplet for each project or repo?
Yeah, great question. There's a number of things to consider when you determine when it's the right time to have a load balancer. When you don't have one, right, there's a lot more overhead, there's a lot more maintenance that comes into play, and less sophistication in being able to do failover to make sure that your application remains reliable, to have different steering mechanisms. And so I would say once you have traffic that has grown to a level in which you need to start actually steering the traffic, not just having it hit one specific origin server in your infrastructure and always kind of maybe potentially have it be hammered over and over. Or if your traffic starts to disseminate or take place from across the world and more than one geographical location, or you require more intelligent steering capabilities or more admin management, then I'd say it's a great time to go into a load balancer. There's really never a time where it's too early, right? I view load balancing as very much as vitamins, right? Some people really try not to do it because they don't want to add the additional cost. But at the end of the day, you absolutely need it, and it is a table stakes to make sure that you stay reliable and that you can continue to scale your infrastructure. And thus, I highly recommend taking a look at our load balancer today. Even if you're at a very early stage, it's incredibly easy to use, very, very low maintenance costs, UI and API parity, and it has a lot of intelligence to make sure that you can focus on your table stakes, focus on the customer experience that you have with your users, and allow us to take care of the availability, the resiliency, and the performance of your application end to end.
Well, when you say there's no such thing as too early, right? Among startup founders, we often have this conversation about, premature scaling, as in, before you have a reasonable number of users and before you've even found product market fit, a lot of people spend engineering hours trying to make sure that they don't fall over, and then they hit market and realize that they don't have any users. How many engineering hours or minutes does it take to set up load balancing so that people have this sort of in their head?
Yeah, great question. I think going back to the too early segment, if you only have one origin and your traffic is coming from one specific area of a domestic country that you're in, it's probably too early to have a load balancer. If you start seeing traffic come from other parts of the world, you start seeing an influx of traffic, you start seeing spikes of traffic, any of these items, or you require just a little bit more intelligent type of steering mechanisms to say, when a request shows up at A, which pool, data center, or origin should it go to? Those are the times when you want to start thinking, okay, what does the load balancing solution look like? To your second question, sorry, can you repeat the question one more time?
Premature scaling.
Yeah.
What is the number of engineering hours that someone...
To set up our load balancer, you can set up a full infrastructure across multiple origins, multiple data centers within minutes. I would put a large argument that you could do it under 30. And you can do this through our UI or API, but one of the massive selling points, the massive value props that we provide with our load balancing solution is that it's incredibly easy to set up. Right, we have a wizard that brings you through it. You've already had your zone and your name servers moved over for your domain for that specific area zone of your application. And so getting it up and running is incredibly easy. We will walk you through every step, and being able to add the information in is largely taking care of itself. So to be able to set up your infrastructure and get a load balancing solution across either if you have AWS, GCP, Azure, or on-prem origins and other parts of your architecture, that is no problem at all. We are agnostic of any provider, and therefore it creates a lot of granularity and flexibility for what you can do with our load balancing solution today.
And that segs me into the next question, which there are two different people named Fernando watching from YouTube who are asking about the differences between different load balancing products. And I always want people to choose the thing that is that best fits their particular use case, right? So, and we want to be fair to every load balancing product on the market. Can you talk a little bit about the differences between, say, Cloudflare's load balancer and DigitalOcean's load balancing product and Nginx?
So I don't think we should go into the fine-grained nitty-gritty of feature comparisons just on this call today. But what I recommend is go look at our load balancing docs that we put into the channel today. That will give a lot of great insight as to what we do, what we don't necessarily do yet. But I think kind of the main characteristics you want to think about as you're looking at different load balancing solutions is what type of steering capabilities do I need? Am I getting load balancing for make sure I'm highly available and resilient, or is more the need for a type of compliance or data regulation compliance for as my users are starting to spring up from different parts of the world? Do I have a on-prem load balancer that does my local traffic management? I need someone to do my global traffic management. At what layer of the OSI?
Are you multi-cloud?
Yeah, are you multi-cloud? What layer of the OSI stack do you want to load balance? Do you need to load balance, layer 7 for HTTP, HTTPS requests, or do you need to do something a little bit lower down the stack for maybe layer 4 for your TCP or UDP traffic, right? So I think these are the type of items you want to think about and see what are the table stakes features and the capabilities that are required that really align the goals of my business to the infrastructure capabilities that I want to have.
So thank you for that. There's another question from YouTube from Andrew. How about transferring an existing single origin to a load balancing solution?
So that might be a little difficult. One of the minimum prerequisites of being able to utilize a load balancer is to have at least 2 origins. The reason being is because if you only have one, there's nothing to route the requests elsewhere. Right? There's nothing to fall back to if that particular origin goes down. And so as a prerequisite, having at least 2 origins is required to be able to do load balancing.
Cool. Thank you for that, Brian. Back to Dina. I'm going to go back to a question that I had asked Brian earlier, which is, let's say I'm on the BDR or in an AE team, and I am talking to a prospect. What are some of the keywords that should trigger me to send them the docs for SSL for SaaS?
Yeah. So, for example, if they're running a SaaS application and they want their customers to have their own custom branding, and each customer is going to have their own domain, then that's a good indicator that they might want to use SSL for SaaS. Think of this as almost like I have a SaaS application that creates status pages. And I want anybody in the world to be able to create a status page for their application. And so in this type of experience, you want to make sure that someone, or Cloudflare in this scenario, takes care of the certificate issuance so they get a safe experience. You want to make sure that you have a network that takes care of the traffic load, which we can do. And again, you want your customers to be able to easily onboard, which can be done through a DNS record, and to have their own, for example, dina.statuspage.com experience. And so in all of these scenarios, SSL for SaaS would be a great solution.
And in terms of engineering hours to do the setup, what are we looking at here?
It is very simple. I think the first time I set it up when I joined the team, it took me about 5 minutes with the documentation. All you really have to do is you add your zone to Cloudflare, and then you go to the SSL tab, and there you indicate where your origin is that you're going to be routing customers to. We also have the ability to route different custom host names to different origins in case you want to do some load balancing on the back end there. And then essentially what you do is you set up the record that you're going to have your customers point to. So for example, mystatuspage.com, you set up a DNS record for it. And then after that, any of your customers, you give that CNAME record to, and they just need to point the DNS record to the SaaS host name that you set up.
Nice. Now, Dina, you recently launched Advanced Certificate Manager, and I thought your meeting, our internal all hands meeting presentation was really fantastic. Could you tell us what that is and what it's for?
Sure. Advanced Certificate Manager is Cloudflare's new customizable, flexible certificate management solution. And so just to give a little bit of background here, in 2014, Cloudflare launched Universal SSL. This was huge because it gave every single one of our customers a free SSL certificate. And so this gave all customers the ability to secure their domain, to have their traffic go through HTTPS. But it was also it's a very basic certificate. You don't get to choose your certificate authority. You don't get to have your own branding. It would be Cloudflare branded. And back when we launched it, our certificates were shared amongst customers. And so some customers wanted their own dedicated certificate. They wanted their own branding. They wanted, it only covered the root domain and the first level subdomain. They wanted to cover more than that. And so for those customers in 2016, we launched dedicated certificates. And so this gave customers their own dedicated cert. It gave them their own branding. It allowed them to cover up to 50 host names. And so this really allowed our customers to be able to fine tune their certificate settings. And so now we are deprecating, or not really deprecating, but we're upgrading dedicated certificates to an advanced certificate manager so that customers no longer have to purchase separate dedicated certificates, but instead for their one zone or domain, what they do is they purchase the advanced certificate manager. And with that, they get 100 certificates that are included. They get a lot more knobs that they can now turn. So for example, they can set different validity periods, which are really important. The whole industry is moving towards shorter validity periods. This has a lot of benefits, such as in the case of a key compromise, it is only compromised for as long as the certificate is valid. Or for example, if we're trying to deprecate old standards, it's much easier to move away from them if in general, everybody's certificate validity periods are shorter. And so we allow customers to do that now. Customers get up to 50 host names. They now get the ability to control what cipher suites they want to allow through. So Cloudflare in general, when a request comes into us, we, during the client hello and the server hello, we have a prioritized list of ciphers. But sometimes customers want to go a step further and say, do not allow the weak ciphers. And so now for any customer that has Advanced Certificate Manager, they can set that. And essentially the goal that we really wanted to accomplish with Advanced Certificate Manager is we really wanted to make it easy for any customer to be a security conscious customer and to be able to just fine tune some of their settings to really time their security posture and make their application as secure as possible. And so that is what we launched.
And in terms of engineering hours to get it set up and to get started, what are we looking at here?
Again, under 5 minutes. All you have to do is enable it to issue the certificate. It is very simple. All you do is you type in the host names you want it to cover. You choose your validity period. It's just a button. You choose which certificate authority you want to use. And then if you want to take it a step further and set advanced features like controlling the cipher suite, that is just one API call that you have to make. So it's very simple to set up.
We have a question from Donald, who's viewing via Facebook, about SSL for SaaS. And I think we want to, maybe there's something to correct a misconception here. So, okay, go ahead.
I was just going to say with SSL for SaaS, you can use any DNS provider to set the DNS record. Cloudflare is a DNS provider. If DigitalOcean allows you to create DNS records for your domain, then you can set it up there as well. But essentially, when you're on Cloudflare, the API that you do need to call is create custom host names. And custom host names are essentially your customers' domains. So if I have a status page application and someone wants to make dina.status.com, I would just need to create a custom host name for it so that it's in our system. And then once I've done that, dina.status.com would just need to point a CNAME record to the SaaS application. And from there, you're good to go.
Cool. We have one audience question about load balancing, and then Brian, I think then I want to ask you about Project Fairshot. So the YouTube viewer Kimani has a question, which is: does the load balancer automatically compensate for horizontal scaling?
So, Kamani, can you clarify a little bit by what you mean for horizontal scaling? Are you talking about when you add more origin servers and be able to steer effectively with new servers that you spin up? Or yeah, if you could give a little bit more detail of what you mean by horizontal scaling, that would be helpful.
Cool. Since there's a little bit of a latency, perhaps you can first get us started by what is Project Fairshot and what is the waiting room technology that you have been working on?
Yeah, absolutely. So, last year when we saw the pandemic hit the world, we wanted to be able to do something. And we can't drive, as Matthew Prince has said before, we can't be the ones to administer the shots. We can't be the ones to drive the cooled trucks to make sure that the vaccines get to the proper destinations. But what we can do is we can make sure that the sites that are responsible for the scheduling and reservations and dissemination of the COVID-19 vaccine remain available, remain reliable, and that they're available for folks to be able to actually sign up, and that you don't just get an error message, which lends to very large frustration when you want to get something that is as important as your health and making sure that you can stay healthy by getting the vaccine and such. We as Cloudflare thought, well, we have this wonderful technology. This is kind of our bread and butter to make sure that things remain available and performant. And so we've been working on the waiting room technology, and we just thought, let's see how we can apply this. And so Matthew and Dane and a few other leaders in the company approached us to say, we think that there's something good we can do here. We think we can really help the world and make this go faster, make this go better for everybody, and thus enter Project Fairshot stage left, where we want to do a social impact part of for what we want to do for the world by providing the waiting room technology for free until at least July, if not later, for any business, municipality, government, private sector, whatever it may be. As long as you're responsible for the scheduling or dissemination for the COVID-19 vaccine, please come and talk to us. We would love to be able to provide these services for free to you, so that we can make sure that we are all doing our part together to make these sites available, reliable, that folks can get their vaccines as fast as humanly possible.
So if someone who is viewing today either works as an engineer at a municipality or has a friend who is connected with these folks, what link should they go to?
Yeah, they should go to cloudflare.com/Fairshot or Project Fairshot, and they will go to our specifically Project Fairshot landing page, at which one they will have a form fill that they can fill out, which will then be sent over to our team. We will immediately get back to you and start conversations of how we can make sure we support you and get you onboarded onto Project Fairshot. One thing to call out is what a waiting room really does in essence is as you have giant spikes of requests coming to your application that normally would inundate it and bring it down, thus in turn serving errors to your customers. What the waiting room does is actually holds those excess requests that your application cannot handle and holds them at our edge in our network. So those requests never actually hit your origin servers altogether. That's making sure that you stay available and reliable at all times. But what you may be thinking is, oh, this is a rate limiter, or this is a WAF rule. The one thing that this does as an additional step is it provides a unbranded or branded queuing page in which users have a more expectant understanding of what comes next. And so that helps you maintain a very stellar and seamless experience as your customers go from trying to access your application to the waiting room, and thus then to actually making to the application to execute their tasks.
Great. I am remembering a time when some colleagues and I were waiting to sign up for Grace Hopper conference tickets. And we were continuously refreshing the page because we would get errors. And this is a normal user behavior when everyone is trying to do something at the same time. You just keep hitting refresh until you get the thing that you want. I mean, surely that's probably pretty terrible for their origin servers, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've all had the experience where we want to get some tickets, or we're in line for something, and we're so excited to get that item, and we keep, like you say, we keep pressing refresh over and over again. But to our customer or that business, those are continued requests always being sent over and over and over again, which could be by tens or hundreds of thousands of people, and that's consistently hitting the origin servers trying to serve these requests. And so by having our waiting room solution is a very great way to be able to scale and protect your application while taking advantage of our massive network to make sure that we can hold those requests for you. We can take care of the reliability, and you can again focus on your table stakes, focus on making sure that those customers have a great experience and have access to the tasks or items that you want to provide to them.
Awesome. So we have a question coming in from a viewer named Mohammed on YouTube. When should I stop upgrading my VPS resources and start adding more instances and use load balancer?
Yeah, great question, Mohammed. So I think this comes down to asking some critical questions around, where is your traffic coming from, and what are the problems you're trying to solve? Are you trying to solve a maintainability problem or a cost overhead problem? Or do you need more advanced capabilities to steer your traffic to take more advantage of a vendor agnostic cloud provider or multi-cloud solution? I think these are some really critical questions to answer, and based on those decisions, then go and look at, hopefully ours or DigitalOcean's load balancer capabilities and see which one more closely aligns with the goals that you want to have. But overall, as a high level, I would say, if you need more failover ability, so you therefore would require more instances or more servers or data centers to fall back to, if you need more intelligent steering capabilities, if you need to integrate with secure tunnels, for example, or connect to private IPs through our Argo Tunnel product. Again, there's a number of things to qualify and make sure that you're getting the right item. But overall, if you have too many requests inundating your existing instances, or you have requests coming from more areas around the world, these are great items or triggers to be able to think, is a load balancer right for me at this point?
Great, thank you. Our question asker, Kamani from YouTube, has chimed in with a clarification for what they mean by horizontal scaling, e.g. cloud service providers that offer auto scaling using containerization technologies like Docker and Kubernetes.
Got it, yeah, great. Okay, thank you for the clarification. Yep, so that's what kind of what I thought. So yes, if you're using AWS, for example, and you're using their auto scaling capabilities, as you continue to add more origins into or spin up more origins, utilizing our Argo Tunnel products and load balancing, you would then be able to make sure that we start utilizing those new spun up servers and spread the load appropriately across those different instances based on the config setup and the weighting that you set up between your origins in a given pool, and also the steering mechanism or policy that you set up that directly aligns the goal of where your requests go based on the goals of your business. And so, yes, we can scale horizontally based on the other types of architecture you have in your infrastructure.
Awesome. And I'm just scrolling up here and seeing another question from a YouTube viewer, Oshara. And I think this is probably going to be application dependent, but is there any number of monthly visitors on a SaaS platform that you would recommend starting to think about a load balancing solution?
Yeah, great question. There's no straight answer there, right? Every business, every application is going to have different capabilities, different traffic patterns, different needs. And so
different architecture and how,
they're leveraging different third-party services, and so there is no one fit-all answer. There's no specific number that says, okay, now it's time for me to get a load balancing solution. I think it comes down to how much time are you spending on maintaining your existing origins and your different instances. Where is your traffic coming from? What type of intelligence do you need? And do you feel that you're spending more time trying to manage where your requests are going and making sure certain origins are not overloaded versus actually being able to focus on your customers? Are you seeing that your costs are skyrocketing, month in, month out? So these are all questions I think you should think about as you go and think about a load balancing solution. But yeah, there is no one set threshold number that says, okay, you reach 50 million requests in a given month, now it's time for load balancer. It will depend on a number of different factors.
Right, and I mean, certainly in numbers of users, that's going to be even more abstract. But if someone is looking at their analytics graph and they're looking at, CPU usage and RAM usage and how how should they be thinking about bottlenecks?
Yeah.
More general advice about that.
Ideally, you should always be doing some level of capacity planning, to make sure that you're not hit with an unexpected unknown, right? The last thing I think any of us ever want is to be surprised.
You front page on Hacker News.
There you go, right? Exactly. That's not something we ever want. You never want, NBC to pick up saying, X company, was down for X hours because of A, B, C, and D. That's never a fun time for anyone. And so taking a much more proactive approach and thinking, okay, we're at A today, we see X number of customers, but we want to grow to B, and we want to 10X what we're doing today. We want to continue growing and serving our customers and being the best in-class service for whatever we're doing. And so taking that proactive approach, doing those capacity plannings and making sure you put the items in place before you see those spikes, before you see your servers inundated, is the best way forward you're going to want to go. But looking at CPU availability, memory, seeing how many requests a given server can handle, those are all things you're going to want to do to make sure that you put the right items in place ahead of time.
Great. I see a question that I'm not sure who it's for. Maybe it's even for Samantha, but from Alex, who's watching via YouTube. Are there plans to add Redis to app platform? That might be a DigitalOcean specific question?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay. I think those are all the questions that I have written down. Since those are all the all of ours. Let's see. Were there any other additional thoughts, Dina or Brian, that you would like to share with our audience before we conclude?
So yes, something that I want to bring up is if anyone that's watching is interested in trying out our SSL for SaaS product, we currently have a beta that's going on. And so I'm happy to drop the link and we will give you 10 custom host names so you can play around with the product and see if it fits your needs. So I will drop a link for that.
Cool. And for people who are watching, some of you may already be participants in DigitalOcean's Hatch program, which is a program for early stage startups to get free DigitalOcean credits. And if you participate in that program, you will, as a partner, you will also get free Cloudflare credits. So you will get benefits from Stripe in the Stripe Atlas program, which helps you incorporate a company and do a lot of sort of the legal work around starting a company. So if you are thinking about starting a company, you should definitely apply to DigitalOcean's Hatch program. And if you are wondering whether you should apply for Hatch, the answer is probably yes if you are an early stage company. And you should definitely hit us up for credits. And I'm a friendly face, so I'm going to be the person you talk to when you hit us up for free credits. And Samantha just dropped the link to the Hatch program. Awesome. So you should all definitely check that out. All right. And Samantha, I don't know if you're going to pop in and say hi real quick, but thank you everyone for joining us today. We had a great time answering your questions and seeing all your hearts and hellos. Yeah. Oh, great. Samantha put in the SSL for SaaS beta sign up in the chat. Cool. Oh, and hopefully Samantha will answer your questions about that are DigitalOcean specific. Cool. And that's a wrap. Thank you all for joining us.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
You too.